republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I have some changes to the agenda on your calendar tonight. You have a request from the Saline Street Organization to put some banners up, and there's an attached map that locates the location of the light pole. So we have that. We'll put that as item number 12.12. To authorize the placement of the summer music series light pole banners as attached on the map. And then we also, under discussion, will put the opinion on water usage restriction for discussion. And I'd also like to add what so proudly we hail to under discussion. I'd also like to add under the State of the City message a proclamation for City Clerk of the Year. Which is hard to do because she's our city clerk and she doesn't know about it. Okay, are there any other changes to the agenda? If not, we have a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Move to approve as amended.
Second.
Morrow, second Tahar. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we don't have any absences, it doesn't look like. So I'd like our city clerk to come down here for a minute. Now, some of you know she got a recognition for many, many years of service. Does anybody remember that? We had a big party, and we could really talk about that because she knew it was 40 years of service, so we couldn't really sneak that one past you. But on this one,
Oh, that's where you were going.
why don't you come over here? I have a proclamation that I'd like to read. Some of the staff was actually in Traverse City. Diane was recognized this last, when was that? June? In June in Traverse City in the clerk as Clerk of the Year. And that's clerk statewide, all the clerks. So she was in a very competitive race for becoming Clerk of the Year. And everybody, there's a lot of people in this room that came to celebrate with her because we value so much in this community. And the clerk job is one of those jobs that nobody sees if you do a good job, right? But if you do a bad job, wow, you're out in front. So obviously, Diane's never done a bad job because nobody knows exactly how hard you work and your staff. And I just wanted to, have a chance, because I know council and a lot of people that weren't able to come to Traverse City wanted to celebrate with you because we all really appreciate the contributions you've made to the city over your many years of service. And yes, we did celebrate your years of service in the past, but this is a very special recognition, and we felt it deserved a very special tribute. So we wrote a proclamation. I think this was Amy's. Is this your first one? So.
Oh, you didn't get Jackie to do it?
So I'd like to read the proclamation. Whereas Diane S. Hill has served the citizens of Saline for 41 years, started her career in the clerk's office in 1971, and whereas Diane began her career with the city as a co-op student, was promoted to deputy clerk in 1974, and was appointed city clerk in 1988. You see, she's nodding, so Amy, so far, so good. And whereas Diane was the first clerk in Washtenaw County to implement the optical scan voting equipment, and she offered assistance to other clerks with their implementation. And whereas Diane is a member of the IIMC, the MAMC, and the Washtenaw County Municipal and Townships Clerk Association, whereas Diane has attained certified municipal clerk status and is currently working towards her master municipal clerk certification, and whereas Diane has made City Hall a successful passport acceptance agency and continues to provide acceptance agents with necessary training and tools to succeed, and whereas Diane is co-sexton of Oakwood Cemetery and is responsible for preparing documentation for interments, disinterments, foundation requests, lot purchases, and everyday inquiries in general, anything that has to do with the cemetery, which can be really complicated at times. And whereas Diane has served on the Michigan Association Municipal Clerks Conference Committee and has served as Vice President and President of the Washtenaw County Municipal and Township Clerks Association. And whereas Diane continues to work tirelessly and compassionately to ensure her office is run with efficiency, integrity, and top-notch quality customer service. Now therefore, I, Gretchen Driscoll, Mayor of the City of Saline, on behalf of the Saline City Council and the citizens of Saline, do hereby publicly recognize and commend Diane S. Hill for outstanding community service and honor her as the 2012 City Clerk of the Year. Congratulations.
This is what I got.
This is quite an honor. For those of you that aren't familiar with it, it's a very competitive, I understand it's very competitive anyhow. So it's quite an honor that she received it, and it's just, like I said, an example of the great work she's done on behalf of our city. So again, thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. I guess I just want to say that I'm very humbled and honored to have received this award. I've really enjoyed my tenure here. It's been wonderful. Not ready to leave quite yet. But I couldn't have done it without my staff and my coworkers. Everybody is there for each other. We help each other. And it's a great group of people to work with. And I've been very blessed to be able to be here and serve my community and the citizens of this city. So thank you, everyone.
Class of 72.
I'll sit these down here by you.
Many, many years.
Many years. Yep. Thank you, sir. And so they all run out.
Thank you all for coming. A lot of employees came tonight. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, they're all probably going to go have a drink on me. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Jim,
Okay, I gave you mine.
Oh, you did? Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay, I did. Okay, so next on the agenda, we have the state of the city.
Here, yours. We're all messed up.
Okay. Good evening. During my tenure as mayor, it has been my privilege to report to you semi-annually on the state of affairs of our fair city. In reviewing my first state of the city from January 1999, I find that we have made great progress. Then, as now, we recognize the importance of maintaining and building a vibrant, healthy city and the value of community participation. I am honored to share with you the strengths our city relies upon and the challenges we have before us today. Our community is positioned to weather the projected decrease in our revenues due to the foundation we have built together. Our partnerships with businesses and surrounding townships, our decade of investment in our infrastructure, and the continued commitment of our citizens, city employees, and council to work toward an ever-improving community. A strategic priority of the city has been to have a proactive economic development stance. This policy has resulted in development-ready parcels, which assist in the recruitment of new businesses. Saline now has over 300 acres of business parks, with businesses from diverse industry sectors, most of whom are growing and creating jobs. Specifically, Liebherr celebrated their fourth expansion of 33,000 square feet in June, resulting in a 133,000 square foot building that houses their aerospace and gear-making businesses. They have 54 acres behind the building and are well positioned for future growth. Additionally, the sale of the ACH business has been completed, and Faurecia is in the process of investing in new equipment and reorganizing the plant floor. We had been hoping for a successful sale, as ACH notified us in 2008 that they would be selling or closing the plant this year. The city still has over 20 acres, valued at over $2 million, available for development as the economy improves. Our goal historically has been to have at least 45% of our revenue come from non-residential revenue, but in the last decade, the ratio has declined to 39% projected for next year. In order to have a healthy economy here and keep residential taxes lower, we need to continue to look for opportunities to grow, recruit, and retain businesses in our community. To that end, we recently contracted with Ann Arbor Spark, our countywide economic development agency, and a nationally recognized economic development organization, to assist us in developing a formal, implementable economic development plan. Programs from this plan could range from development of a local entrepreneur support group to business attraction to home-based business workshops. The information gathered will help us focus our ever-shrinking personnel resources on priority opportunities for economic growth. Additionally, this year, our city was fortunate to be accepted into the Michigan Main Street Select Level Program. The National Main Street Program is a proven commercial revitalization approach that leverages our local resources to create a nonprofit organization that partners with the city to improve our downtown by working on design, promotion, economic restructuring, and volunteer recruitment. We are the 17th city in the state to achieve this status, and I commend the volunteers who worked tirelessly to put together the winning proposal, two of whom, actually there's more in the room, but I know Jill and Kelly are here. Our new Main Street manager, Kelly, I can't pronounce your name. Itzikowski. I've been asked before the meeting. Kelly Itzikowski is at work developing the systems and framework for a successful program. Watch for the many positive outcomes from this program in the years to come. We have our challenges right now in the commercial real estate arena with Country Market closing and other commercial strips that are underutilized. However, there are retail business openings on a regular basis once again, and we expect to see a few more storefronts active by the end of the year. The empty spaces will fill as the economy continues to improve. Over the past decade, the city implemented infrastructure projects that had been in the planning process in the last century. Our significant investment in major capital projects has substantially improved the vast majority of our assets, providing for long-term stability and lengthy lifespans in our various asset categories. This, in turn, enables us to provide better services to our citizens and businesses. While our foundation is solid, the budget deliberations for this fiscal year were probably the most difficult I've ever experienced in my 20 years of elected office. Our current revenue projection for fiscal year 13 reflect budgeted property tax revenues comparable to fiscal year 05, and the state revenue sharing below what we received in 1996. The contributing factors of a 20% decline in our property tax revenue in the past 4 years, a lump sum paydown of the city MERS liability in 2011, and the underfunding of state revenue sharing since 2000, which is a cumulative total of $4 million on an $8.5 million annual budget, has contributed to an erosion of our fund balance. This will be our most challenging year, as commercial values have stabilized and residential values are projected to increase at least 2%. We are currently projecting a fund balance of slightly less than $1 million. However, we are maintaining a AA- bond rating, which is excellent for a city our size. We have worked diligently in partnership with our employees and other governmental entities to look for cost-saving opportunities. We have eliminated through layoffs or attrition 20% of our workforce, implemented wage freezes, and addressed health care and pension benefits by implementing changes on par with the private sector. Additional opportunities for regional service, such as our fire district, or coordinated grants, such as the new connection to our linear trail at the library, are pursued whenever possible. The looming concern for our city and many other taxing entities in our community, schools, the library, the community college, and around the state is the current proposal in Lansing to eliminate personal property tax revenue and replace it without any guarantee. Our experience with state revenue sharing has been that the revenues do not get replaced reliably. Therefore, the city was ultimately required to implement a millage increase to offset some of the statutory revenue shortfall. Currently, our personal property taxable value is 22% of our total value, and this elimination by the state could significantly impact our stagnant revenues. The city will struggle to make further cuts in staffing without a negative impact on our level of service. Our city is a healthy, vibrant community because of the participation of its citizenry, not only in good governance, but as volunteers and supporters. This past weekend, 2 citizen-led initiatives were celebrated. The Red Barrel Project, started by PACT volunteers, culminated in a location at City Hall to collect unused prescription drugs, keeping them from misuse and out of our waterways. The new flagpole at the cemetery, a project that took little more than 2 months to complete, is another excellent example of our community coming together to solve our problem. Last weekend, thousands of visitors came to experience our 17th annual Celtic Festival, an event initiated to celebrate our sister city relationship of 47 years with Brecon, Wales. This award-winning event had over 400 volunteers come together to execute a plan that other volunteers had spent all year working on. In addition, on August 10th and 11th, we can look forward to our annual Summerfest, another weekend filled with fun activities and opportunities to play together, which over 100 volunteers plan and execute in recognition of the importance of community building. The culmination of a year's worth of planning by our Arts and Cultural Committee will result in the dedication of a sculpture walk in our downtown area at the kickoff of the Summerfest. We have had a continuous goal of improving community involvement for as long as I can remember. Some of the changes in the last decade include televising council meetings, interactive city website, quarterly newsletters, and a biannual citizen satisfaction survey. An informed and active citizenry makes for a stronger community. An informed community makes the best decisions and is vested in our future. It has been a distinct honor and privilege to represent this community. We as a city are extremely fortunate to have had elected officials and city employees that are dedicated to improving our community, and I have been privileged to work alongside them. I believe the reason that we have been recognized as a top 100 small city several times last decade can be directly attributed to the sense of pride that our community holds. The initiatives and contributions our citizens, businesses, and city employees make ensures that the city of Saline continues to be one of the best places to live, work, and play. Thank you. Okay, citizen comments on agenda items. Under the Open Meetings Act, any citizen may come forward at this time and make comment or question on items that appear on this agenda. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person. Anyone who would like to speak is requested but not required to state his or her name and address for the record. If not, we'll move on to the consent agenda. The following consent agenda will normally be adopted without discussion. However, at the request of any citizen or council member, any item may be removed from the consent agenda for council discussion.
Move to approve and adopt as submitted.
Support.
Move Gearbox, second Rhodes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Under unfinished business, item 12109, the emergency warning sirens. This is a motion to acknowledge receipt of the July 23rd, 2012 memo with updated information from Benjamin Pinette, Emergency Services Planning Coordinator. We have a motion.
Move to acknowledge receipt.
Second.
Move Gearbox, second Roth.
Marl.
Sorry. Discussion. There's no discussion. We have a motion to acknowledge receipt. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have a motion to authorize or not authorize the replacement of the... Do you have something you want to... Sure. We don't have a... How about if we just do authorize the replacement of the two existing warning sirens and the addition of a third siren, and then we'll leave the location to be... Do we have a motion to authorize or not authorize the replacement?
I'll make that to authorize.
Second. Okay, so we have a motion to authorize the replacement of the city's two existing warning sirens and the addition of a third siren. Okay, you want to come in?
Good evening. Just an update from our meeting 2 weeks ago. I was able to meet with the siren installer. We did view 2 more sites as requested. We looked at Woodland Drive at Ann Arbor Street. We did find a suitable location on the southeast side of the intersection. And we did also look at opportunities along Michigan Avenue between Maple Road and the eastern city limits. What we found there, well, twofold. Addressing the Woodland Drive location again, we think the location will be suitable based on utility markings that are currently in place. There's enough opportunity to move within that intersection to be able to locate a siren appropriately, even after our misdig findings come back. The only concern that our office had was the elevation of that site is about 20 feet lower than what we found at Michigan Ave, or I'm sorry, at Woodland and Maple Road where the current siren exists. So looking at the coverage map proposed for that location, we'd probably find that the coverage is reduced slightly from that 1 mile radius, particularly heading south into town. I can't really venture to say how much it would be reduced, but just given a 10 to 20 feet decrease in elevation, there would be a little bit of a reduction in coverage. Looking at the proposed Michigan Avenue location, there are considerable markings there for utilities in the public right-of-way. We noted gas, sewer, water in the area, and that's without a misdig done on the site. So again, that site is probably suitable pending the outcome of that misdig. If that comes back with enough utilities where we can't relocate the staking that we proposed the siren. There were no other locations that were suitable along that stretch from Michigan Ave from Maple to the city limits. I can entertain any questions or comments.
Mr. Peters.
Question. We will be installing the sirens as per map 2, is that correct?
That would be based on your approval. We can do it on map 2. We can do a combination that would include the location here at City Hall or the location at Old Creek and Henry, really whatever your prerogative is.
I received a call last night from a concerned citizen who lives at Old Creek and Harris Street.
I also talked to the citizen on the corner there.
Okay.
He voiced his concern about another pole on the property there, so we did
Okay, he had
discuss
suggested
that.
moving it to the east, which would comply with map 2.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I'd like to speak in favor of supporting the locations specified on map number 2, dated July 23. It does reduce the amount of overlap in our center core. It does provide coverage to the residential area that had not been covered before. And while it does leave a bit of uncovered space in the upper right, that area is mostly industrial. And so I have less concern about residential there. And so that's my comments on the location. And then the other thought that I had, the last paragraph on the first page of your cover memo talks about the cost to have Saline Police and Sheriff's Office both being able to control those sirens. I wonder if it wouldn't be possible, rather than to spend the money to do that, and also to spend the money to remove the one that's located by Henny Field, to just leave Henny Field where it is and leave it continue to be hooked up to the Saline Police Department, since the signal for noon on Saturday is, I believe, primarily for the benefit of those in the downtown area anyway. And so if that siren works, let's just leave it alone, not incur costs to move it or to duplicate the ability to set off all the sirens.
I don't believe our office would have a concern with that.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so.
Madam Mayor.
Mr. Morrow and Mr. Propper.
You want to go first? Go ahead. Sure, okay. Well, first of all, I want to thank you for being here tonight, and additionally, I want to thank you for your willingness to look seriously at placing emergency sirens in locations other than what you recommended and proposed 2 weeks ago. And like Mr. Rhodes, and I think like my colleague, Mr. Peters, I do think the locations that are expressed on map 2, dated 7/23 of 12, are better. I think they cover the city more sufficiently, and most importantly, it covers all of Northview subdivision, which is one of our most densely populated areas in the city. And like Mr. Peters, and probably like most of my colleagues on the dais this evening, I also received a call from the gentleman who lives there at the corner of Old Creek and Henry, and expressed some concern, about the placement of that emergency siren. So I think it's great that we were able to move that to a more commercial industrial space and get that out of the vicinity of his property, but also the vicinity of some condos, which are 3 stories. And
Correct.
You spoke 2 weeks ago about the concern about placing emergency sirens next to 3-story structures. And I should say, in addition to my comments, that I really think that Mr. Rhodes' suggestion about keeping the siren intact at Henny Field to sound off at the noon hour on Saturday is a wonderful suggestion. And I was going to sort of drop my objection, or drop my suggestion rather, of maintaining dual control, considering the costs. I think it's important, but I'm not willing to fight over it. So I think that's a great suggestion. If that can be worked out, I think that would be terrific. So again, thank you.
Certainly.
Mr. Rock.
I wanted to add, pretty much remark what Brian just finished up with, Mr. Morrow did, and Mr. Rhodes' suggestion that we keep the one intact for our Saturday warning, test of sirens or whatever it may be, and not have this extra $1,000 per unit for installation. So that's where I stand. And I thank Mr. Rhodes for coming up with that concept. And I'm glad Mr. Morrow was thinking the same way.
I can discuss that with my administration. Again, I don't foresee any major concerns with that. But on that discussion, I can communicate back with City Manager Campbell, and we can provide input on that. But again, I don't foresee any major concerns with that.
If my understanding be operating independent of your system,
That would be correct. If we
totally independent of
If we took that option, police dispatch would be able to control the siren at Henny Field, and our office would then control the remaining 3 locations.
That's
to
where I
clarify.
stand.
Okay.
I had a question. So while, you know, we are thinking of our city, there is an area that is pretty well populated that you are no longer cover, that you're covering with the first proposal, which is along the corner of North Maple Road.
Correct.
The Legacy Heights. And so for the areas that don't have siren, how do they learn about, you know, weather?
Well, we certainly are advocates for residents obtaining a NOAA weather radio or all hazards radio for use inside. Again, keep in mind, these are considered outdoor warning sirens. If you can hear the siren inside your house, that's fantastic, but that should not be your primary mode of warning. They're designed for residents who are outside, away from normal media, to be able to be alerted to go inside, tune to a local radio station or television to obtain information based on, you know, that alert signal. So,
Well, I'm just wondering on that map too, along, if you move that, I hate to do this, but there is quite a population that you're missing between, I believe, the siren that is in Pittsfield Township and the city. If you move that one on North Minerva Street over onto Woodland Avenue to the east a bit, you'd still accommodate a lot of the density in the city because you already have that with the southwest siren. But then you would be able to cover.
I'm
So,
sorry.
Did you look at that at all?
The concern with that is there are no above-ground utility transformers between Ann Arbor and Maple. So that would have been my primary recommendation, you know, if it were suitable, that we locate that siren about midway between those 2 locations. However, that's just not feasible based on the public service provider. So you would have to choose between either or. Unfortunately, there was not a location available midway.
Okay. Further discussion on this, Mr. Peters?
Just one quick. Are these motor-driven mechanical sirens, or these are the electrical sirens?
They are the motor-driven mechanical sirens.
Okay, and they're at, what, 130 decibels?
I couldn't comment. I'm not sure the exact specifications on them.
I guess they are what they are. I think we talked about that last time. You can't turn them up, turn them down.
These are the sirens that we use for all of our installations countywide. I know Dexter Township is looking at
So putting a bigger device.
electronic.
Putting a bigger device wouldn't reach out a little further.
No, based on our research and prior experience, we use these mechanical sirens for a reason. It's our opinion that they're the best performing on the market.
Any further discussion? Mr. Moore?
Thank you, Mayor. To your concern, because it is a valid one, I think the gentleman expressed or articulated 2 weeks ago that the range of the sirens, which is expressed on the maps, is sort of the guaranteed area in which all individual citizens would be able to hear the warning. But didn't you express 2 weeks ago that generally speaking, you would be able to hear the siren beyond?
There's fluctuation. There's a lot of circumstances. Elevation of the local terrain is the primary. Obviously, buildings in place, residential construction in place will alter that. The manufacturer's specification of 1 mile, it can be exceeded in a lot of situations. It can be reduced in some situations as well, particularly in the eastern communities of the county. We tend to pack those sirens a little bit closer together with the understanding that a lot of the buildings will decrease the overall range.
But generally speaking, this is a pretty conservative estimate.
Correct.
Okay, Mr. Gearba.
I just support Mr. Rhodes' proposal because I believe that'll save the tradition of the siren and everything else. We will continue to have that as being one of our trademarks. And the approach of the sirens we find from the perspective of I'd rather have them under control of the county so that technology and things change in the future. We know that that'll be able to be changed quicker than to have to go into an additional expense that we may not be prepared for. Thank you.
Further discussion on the motion?
Whoops, excuse me. I have one more question for him.
Yes.
2 weeks ago, you had an estimate cost. Why don't we have a more firm estimate or real cost?
My contact has to work with the actual manufacturer to get a quoted price on that. As of today, even, I don't have a confirmed price on that. He was able to give me a realistic estimate of $2,500 to $3,000 each, but pending that quote from the manufacturer, he couldn't give me a firm price, so I am still waiting on that, but I have requested it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Further discussion on the motion to authorize the replacement of 2 existing warning sirens and the addition of a third. Is there further discussion?
Just one quick one. Todd, what will be the cost to even maintain the old one up on Henny Field? Is that going to be prohibitive, or does it need to be replaced now, or whatever?
Right now, it's working currently, so it just depends on if it breaks, or when it breaks. So that I guess that was a question I have is, if and when it does break, and it will, because they do, is that something we want to continue on? I mean, again, it's not going to break the bank, but in these times, you know, a couple thousand here and a couple thousand there is certainly more
What
valuable.
happens to the other siren that we're going to be taking down and replacing? We're replacing them, right, or are we reusing them for this new?
No, they're being replaced. We were planning to have them removed, and they were going to take care of them, dispose of them.
Okay. I was just saying, if we kept the one as a backup for the other one, because I don't know if we're not going to get any value for it or not.
Yeah, yeah, we can certainly look into that and see if that's a feasible option.
So we have a motion on the floor. All in favor to authorize replacement of the 2 warning sirens and the addition of a third, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We need a motion with said sirens to be located at Austin Drive at Michigan Avenue, Woodland Drive at North Ann Arbor Street, and 600 East Michigan Avenue, to approve or not approve the cost to remove and dispose of the existing poles equipment at an estimated cost of $800 to $1,000 per location, and the cost for ongoing maintenance of the sirens at an approximate cost of $480 to $500 annually per siren.
Move to approve and, to authorize and approve.
Second.
Move Gearba, and second,
Marl?
Morrow. Sorry, for some reason,
No?
I'm having ear problems on that side tonight.
Oops.
Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Need a motion to approve or not approve the dual control capability of these sirens by both Saline Police and the Sheriff's Office Emergency Services Division, an estimated cost of $2,500 to $3,000 per siren location.
Move not to approve.
I second.
Move Terhar not to approve?
Yes.
And
And I
Moore?
second not to approve.
Roth not to approve.
You're sounding old.
Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And item 112, we have a memo on the countertop tonight to authorize the placement of the summer music series light pole banners as attached on the map, layout on the map. Do we have a motion?
I so moved.
Roth?
Accepted.
I'll second.
Morrow?
No, he moved it.
Rob?
I was just inquiring, is it a motion to approve or?
Yeah, to authorize.
Okay, authorize.
And second in Gearba? We have a motion by Roth, a second by Gearba. Discussion. Do you want to come and talk about it a little bit? Apologize for messing up your name again.
I'm Kelly Itzikowski from Saline Main Street. We have been putting on the event Summer Music Series throughout the summer, and we have been given a budget to promote the event. This year we have used most of our resources to do promotions that can be reused year after year, and one of those is a light pole banner. This is the example that is upside down. We have 20 of these ordered. They're all in. They would not be replacing the Summerfest banners. They would be going in addition with those throughout the city. There's a number of light posts available to be posted on. We would hope to work with DPW to hang these signs, and we would be happy to facilitate with volunteers. They would only be hung for the duration of the Summer Music Series, so approximately 4 to 5 weeks, and potentially in years to come throughout the summer. So yeah, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer those.
Anybody have any questions? Looks good. Thank you. We have a motion to authorize the placement of the banners per the map attached. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Discussion items, we have Commissioner Committee reports from council members. Ms. Tahar.
Yes, thank you. The Arts and Culture Committee is planning for an inauguration dedication of the Sculpture Walk at Summerfest to be held Friday evening, that's the 10th of August, at 5:30 on the performance stage. And then on the following day, artist Rick DeTroyer will be here at 11, and will meet interested people at the farmer's market to do a sculptor walk, to walk around. He will talk about his work, and people can ask questions. There is also a brochure and map in process that includes not only Mr. DeTroyer's 5 works, but also existing works of art in town right now. And looking far ahead, the 5 sculptures that Mr. DeTroyer has loaned us are only ours to enjoy for a year to 18 months. So the Arts and Culture Committee has started thinking about what might replace those sculptures a year to a year and a half from now. The time to start thinking about that is now. So we are encouraging anyone who has sculptures to share or artists to nominate to let us know, because we'd like to be complaining now. So, but the main thing is we hope to see you at Summerfest on Friday evening at 5:30 for the dedication. Thank you.
Can I just clarify that Sculpture Walk is a weekend after the Summerfest or during the Summerfest?
During Summerfest.
Oh, okay. So that would be the 11th.
Yes, Friday the 10th.
But the walk,
The walk is on Saturday the 11th.
Okay.
Yes.
At what time?
At 11 a.m.
11?
At the farmer's market.
11 a.m. on the 11th. That should be easier. Okay, thank you. Mr. Morrow.
Thank you. I wanted to give a brief report on behalf of the Oakwood Cemetery Task Force for my colleagues on that group, which would include Ms. Tahar and Mr. Roth, as well as everyone on council, just to keep you aware of what's going on. That group had initially proposed meeting sometime either in June or July to talk about a whole host of projects and improvements, the most important being some capital improvements, including the driveways throughout Oakwood Cemetery. However, after conferring with our city superintendent, Mr. Rubel, and Clerk Hill, it seems more prudent for us to meet in the early fall, probably sometime in September or October. And Mr. Rubel will be assessing the capital needs of the cemetery at the same time he addresses all capital needs throughout the city. So that evaluation and analyzation will take place later this summer, early fall, and then we will meet. For those of you who serve on that task force, you may recall that when we last met 3-4 months ago, we did talk about the need to do some routine maintenance on the retaining wall on Monroe Street. That is being done currently by John Shibley Masonry. In fact, he was out there today. I noticed doing a little bit of work, and there are small things being done throughout the cemetery. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. We will not be meeting this summer, but again, in all likelihood, we'll be meeting sometime in early fall, either September or October. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there other, Mr. Rhodes?
The Environmental Commission met on July 18th and continues to be a very active commission looking at a number of activities. We have scheduled staffing for the Environmental Commission tent at Summerfest to hand out free information to those who wish to avail themselves of that. We are also staffing the Environmental Commission tent on the 3rd Saturday of each month at the farmer's market, again to distribute free information to people. As was mentioned in the State of the City message, we had a very successful Red Barrel rollout this last Saturday. It was attended by almost 60 people, including 3 folks who came down from Livingston County for that event. And for those who may not be aware of it, the Red Barrel is located in our City Hall, just to the side of the police dispatch desk. And it is there for the convenience of everyone to use to dispose of expired, unused, unneeded medications, particularly those that have controlled substances in them. It is about the only legal way to dispose of those controlled substances in the area. We have 4 more of the recycle containers that have come in and are to be placed downtown. That will give us a total of 8 recycle containers for our downtown area. And we are working on our plans for our display and staffing for Environmental Commission activity at the Harvest of the Arts Oktoberfest, the end of September. And by doing these various things, we continue to work diligently on assisting the city in meeting the goals of our strategic plan for this coming year to be a green, sustainable city. We continue to educate folks about things that they can do to help the environment and themselves. And so I'm very pleased to be the county rep, the council rep to that commission. They're doing a great job. Thank you.
Is there any other commissioner committee? Mr. Peters?
Yeah, just want to say a quick thank you to all the 400-plus volunteers and all the people here in town that attended the 17th Annual Celtic Festival. It's shaping up to be one of our most successful festivals yet. We haven't got the numbers in tallied up exactly yet, but it was very successful. We had thousands of people here in town that don't live here. Things were busy in the park. They were busy uptown. It was your typical July day. It was hot, but it didn't rain. And all in all, attendance sales were up from previous years. So it was a very successful festival, and that doesn't happen without the help of so many good people, those volunteers and folks here that support the festival. So thank you from the committee.
Are there any other commissioner committee reports? Are there reports or are there announcements? I think we said the Summerfest, but is there any other upcoming events? Mr. Campbell? You just came back from vacation. You probably wouldn't know. Anyhow, water usage restriction. I don't know, Mr. Campbell, if you want to talk to that first, or?
Sure, thank you, Madam Mayor. Mayor Pro Tem Gearbach had asked me whether or not there had been discussions about, it was from the staff perspective, regarding possible water restrictions because of the drought and those types of things. So we're happy to talk. Bob Skull is here from our water plant. Chief Rennick is here as well. And you see on you have an opinion from City Attorney Grossman before you saying that the City Council certainly can, in fact, regulate the use. But I think this was I don't want to put any words, I don't want to speak for Mr. Gearbach, but I wanted to at least discuss and get some ideas out there. Or,
Right. I just wanted to have an assessment from Mr. Skull, whatever, regarding what potentially, are we seeing any issues with our water? Is there anything in terms of, the pumps and everything?
Currently, everything's, I hate saying this because it usually jinxes things, but everything's working fine. Production is actually just coming back up. We had far more water production demand in the early 2000s than we have in the last few years. So we're up this year, but we're still far down from our peak years. So and we're not pulling down the aquifers.
That was more the question. I wanted to make sure of that because I know they keep addressing this throughout Indiana and everywhere else. Sure. That I didn't know if we had a concern about that at this point.
Again, the overall demand has been down probably because of the economy. So it hasn't been a problem yet. As long as everything keeps working, we should be fine as far as production capacity.
So we really just need to encourage people to use water after dark.
Yeah, after peak hours would be better. It's better for the lawn. It's better for the utility.
Okay. No, that was just, I just wanted to update on that to make sure we were addressing that. Thank you.
and if I may as well, I know Mr. Skull also contacted some of our neighboring jurisdictions, and they are not doing any restrictions either, but we just wanted to check and see what our neighbors were doing too.
So the other thing that was great on Saturday was, some of you know that the three gentlemen, Pete Belair, George Perot, and Bob Krasinski, had a project, and they came in front of council and talked to the community, and were very successful in implementing the new flagpole replacement, and they had a very nice ceremony on Saturday, and they gave us a plaque that was very nice, And I'll just read it because they spent a lot of time. We were very fortunate that Jim Robeson was willing to contribute the complete cost of the flagpole, and Fred Hamilton was able to provide the lighting. And we've gone from 500 watt usage to 15 watts, so it saves us some money too. I'll read this really quick. What so proudly we hail, whereas in honor of the many deceased veterans as well as the former citizens and ancestors of Saline, Michigan that lie in Oakwood Cemetery, whereas the Washington County Vietnam Veterans of America Chapter 310 and the What So Proudly We Hail Committee, whereas the generous donation from Jim Robeson of Robeson Von Miller Funeral Home, whom donated the funding for the new flagpole in Oakwood Cemetery, whereas the generous donation from Fred Hamilton of K&F Electrical Contractors and his suppliers for the upgraded lighting around the Oakwood ceremony area, whereas the generous donations from the citizens of Saline, the veterans of foreign wars, Post 423, the Saline American Legion Post 322, and various other citizens and businesses, whereas the City of Saline Department of Public Works for their generous assistance, whereas, obviously this wasn't written by our clerk, whereas the City of Saline City Council graciously given their permission to proceed with What So Proudly We Hail, whereas the City of Saline Oakwood Cemetery Task Force took What So Proudly We Hail recommendations to City Council for approval, whereas the City of Saline is given an 8-year flag service program. In that, flag replacement will be accomplished every 3 months at no expense to the City of Saline. Service program also includes 50% off any labor involved on repairs to said flagpole by the installer named Rocket Enterprise Incorporated, Warren, Michigan. Now therefore be it recorded that the What So Proudly We Hail Committee relinquishes all documentation, spare parts, and responsibility for the newly established flagpole and lighting in Oakwood Cemetery to the City of Saline. Dated and signed this date, July 21st, 2012, by Pete Polaire, George Perot, and Robert Kwasinski. And they actually had some shipmates come up from George's ship from Indiana and Ohio, so we even had some out-of-town guests. So it was a really nice ceremony, and I thought they did a really nice job, and I know several of our council was there on that day. So thanks again to the volunteers for putting that together.
Absolutely.
The other, I forgot to put under discussion, country market, and I spoke a little bit with Todd, I think, about this, but did I talk to you about this today? I spoke a little bit with Catherine, and I was hoping that we could maybe talk about maybe the staff looking into what our options are with that, especially the sign, and then what's going on with the parking and just in general. And I know it's a private property, somewhat of a private property issue, but there's also some enforcement, I think, that we could pursue. If the city could, the staff could look into that further and report back, that might be helpful. So.
Yep, we hadn't had a chance to discuss it today, but we will discuss it this week and provide a report back.
That would be great. Are there any other items for discussion? Mr. Rhodes.
And one other item that I probably should have mentioned earlier, and that is the Saline Area Sustainability Circle met last week, Tuesday. And for those who may not be aware of that is a group of elected officials that come together once a month from the city of Saline and from the townships that surround us, and we talk about issues that affect more than just us as individuals. And we have, over the last year or so, worked on establishing a regional planning guideline, more than guideline, regional plan, master plan. And while it appears that probably will not go into effect, we did at the last meeting recommend to Doug Luan, our planner, that he develop the cost to simply stitch together the existing master plans, because all of them have been updated recently from all of those communities, and then to print a large-scale map which could be distributed to each community so that they would be more aware of the master plan for the territory surrounding them. So it was a bit of a setback, but you know, not everything works first time through, so we'll just kind of keep working away. That's it.
Are there any other discussion? If not, under public comment, under the Open Meetings Act, any citizen may come forward at this time and make comment or question to City Council. This public comment period will be limited to 3 minutes per person. Anyone who would like to speak is requested but not required to state his or her name and address for the record. Is there anybody that would like to speak? Not, is there any other business to come before council? We have no work meeting as was written on the agenda for August 13th. It'll just be a regular meeting on the 13th and a regular meeting on the 20th. And this week we have a joint meeting with planning to talk about a few items. So If there's no other business to come before council, do we have a motion to adjourn at 8:25?
So moved.
Second.
Second, Morrow, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.